So let's flip this on its head. We've talked about inspiration. How do you deal with creator's block or writer's block?
I,
Oh, that face.
oh,
Oh, that
no,
face.
I watched your last show from 2 weeks ago, and I was like, okay. So there's no such thing as plumber's block. There's no such thing as lawyer's block or anything like that. And so I don't really suffer from that. I suffer from not being able to get everything down as fast as it comes out. But challenges now, I look at writer's block as I'm sitting there and maybe just can't put anything on a page. But I'm realizing, listening to other people's definitions, that that could also mean maybe life events are hounding you so much you can't get into that groove. And I've heard people say, well, that's writer's block. I don't know that I agree with that, but I have something for that. So writer's block, from the definition of sitting down and I just see a blank piece of paper, I have a suggestion, and that is when I was being trained to be a bodyguard. Long story, we won't get into that. I learned something is that the human mind has a tendency to want to solve problems. It wants to answer questions. So if I ever have, and this is why I don't see that white page, if you sit down in a place and isolate yourself, no music, no television, no media, no people talking, just in a silent place. And by the way, this is what I would recommend to everyone: earplugs. Okay, so silent place. I mean this literal, silent place, and wait. Do nothing. And eventually your mind, your creative mind, especially if you're a writer or you're an artist, your mind will go insane and start talking back to you. It will start solving its own problems. I've done this countless times. Just sit and wait, because your brain wants to be active, and so it will do that. So that's, if that was a technical writer's block, the white page. When it comes to life, getting there, that's more of a discipline thing. You know, you have to set time. I don't know anyone who finds time. Life will steal that time. So you have to make time, and you have to do the most important things first. And so you need to make decisions of how important this is to you, and go from there. I'm a very goal-oriented individual. So I get up and I make a list every single morning when I get up. I've got a nice little a yellow pad that I go and I write down exactly what I'm going to do, get up to bed, and I follow that. So
Amazing. Amazing. So for you, writer's block is about waiting for your brain to work it out and making sure that you are keeping up good writing habits so that, you know, the things are going on the paper when you have the things, and otherwise you're leaving space for your brain to solve the problems.
partially it with development, see, I guess with being creative, if I go back to okay, so there, I have a method that I use called the up Chuck method, and Chuck is one of my main characters, and so I worked it out by writing some things with him, and then he said, no, you need to fix it and do it this way. And then I took this idea because I wanted to categorize and streamline the process of how I was writing a book, because one year I wrote like 8 books in a single year, and I was like, how come I still had time for family and to do everything and still accomplish that? How did that happen? So I went back, took about a month and wrote down the process, and I had an idea for a book. And I gave this idea, I sent an email to David Farland, and you can look him up. He's a New York Times international bestselling author. And I asked him, because I'd taken a course from him once when he came here to Utah. And brilliant man, wonderful man. And I said, has this been done before? Because I don't want to put something out there if it's been done before. And so I sent him my outline and idea for the book. And he got back to me in like 30 minutes. And he said, it has been done once before, but it was 40 years ago, and it was by Isaac Asimov. And so there is not a modern day version of this. You need to do it for this generation of writers. And so I wrote a book called Advanced Worldbuilding, and it goes through basically that concept of our brains. They want to ask they want to answer questions and solve problems. So if we learn how to ask more questions, there isn't the writer's block problem. And so I started working with how my own brain worked, where if I got into a corner, it wasn't a matter of that I didn't have information, it's that I wasn't asking the right questions. So I'd write down the questions, and then my goal was now to solve those questions, which comes back to world building. That's why World Anvil is like my favorite place to exist, outside of writing my books, because it solves that. It allows me to take that process, and it's ongoing. I spend half my day every single day on World Anvil.
Wow.
Building my world. So that's part of my business now. It's just what I do. And it keeps the writing going. So
that is amazing. And I would like to have it recorded here that I did not ask or tell Jaime to say these things. I have not paid him to say these things. Just in case anyone's watching this and thinking, oh, this looks mightily suspicious. Jaime is, of course, a World Anvil user. We are thrilled to have him in our community. He is a beacon of how Sage can be used for a business, for marketing, and all the rest. But I have him here as an author, not as a World Anvil advocate, just to be clear, in case somebody is suspicious. So speaking
I'll keep plugging it no matter what anyway. So it's just awesome.